find my notes, but shout out to technology is very universal. But yeah, again, super appreciative of all of our panelists here tonight. Might have to just pass the mic around if that's okay with you all. I'm trying to figure out where I should stand. I'm gonna work the room a little bit. I like to do stuff like that. I like to experiment. This is how I know what works and what doesn't work. But again, like I said, there's paper and pens on the table as well. We encourage you all to take notes, right? I think, as these, our speakers are here, they're gonna be giving us knowledge and tools to really, really transform what we're doing, both in the workplace, but then also at home and in the community. And I'm a person that like to study. And so sometimes you can take in things and then walk out the door and get distracted. And everything that you just got from one situation could be, gone within the next. So definitely want to encourage you all to take notes. So kicking us off, we'll start with the question with all of you. And feel free to pass the mic, Andreas, we'll go down from there. But what professional experiences and qualities did you have that led you to your current position? And if you would like to answer the second question to that, what are the top 2 to 3 skill sets you think are important for young professionals to develop?
Sure. So first of all, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I want to thank Braylon and Brandon, so let's give them a shout out again for putting this together. And thank you so much for thinking of me as well and inviting me tonight. Actually, it has been a treat for my wife and I to be sitting here and certainly breaking bread and making some new connections. In terms of answering the question, I think that there's a couple of skills and maybe some of my lived experience that really led me into the role that I actually hold today. And it started probably way back in the mid-'80s when my parents decided to uproot us from our tiny island of Puerto Rico, and they took us, of all places, to Cleveland, Ohio. So they missed the weather memo, for sure, but that's where I grew up. And I remember as we transitioned, there were many things that were very difficult and kind of countercultural to us and to me. And I remember that for the first time, I really experienced what certainly racism and not being accepted for who I was became a reality. And those were things that, as a 13-year-old, you probably did not necessarily say noted. I'm going to actually work on this, right? Or I'm going to remember this. But I know that some of those lived experiences were shaping me along the way. And so as I completed my high school and I went on to college, I remember wanting to actually pay it forward and getting involved in the community. And so I was able to actually, at a very early age, was able to attain my first professional role in a not-for-profit. And I was actually providing life skills prevention to our own Latino community. And so I was speaking my own language, empowering our community, and I was getting paid for it, right? I mean, that's kind of a dream come true in many ways. But I saw through that lens that there were a lot of challenges in our community. And so I felt that I was being called to do something more. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to finalize here my studies in biology. It was a pre-med, and decided to divert from that. Ended up falling in love with the not-for-profit sector, and ended up getting my master's actually in the field, and stayed with the not-for-profit, actually 2 not-for-profits, and running them, 2 Latino serving not-for-profits for over 12 years in Cleveland originally. That's where I started my career. And I think that a lot of those early opportunities really started preparing me. And I remember that one of the key things that I did early on was actually seek out a mentor. And that mentor was actually phenomenal, because he started coaching me, he started actually working with me and allowing me to really understand not only the things that I probably was good at, but as equally important, what are the things that I needed to work on. And I didn't want to hear it first, quite frankly, and I'm sure maybe some of you could relate to this, but I needed to actually stay the course. And the more that he actually said, hey, work on your business acumen or your financial acumen, or work around, making sure that your work ethic, right, it's there, it's on point. Those were things that started shaping me as a professional. And so when I look now back into kind of the summation of my career, which is close now to 30 years, doing this type of work in healthcare specifically, I start looking back and I see along the way, along that journey, how either mentors pour into my life and or the opportunities that they actually provided me, because they opened many, many doors that I would have never been able to actually knock on those doors, and those doors would have been open necessarily. How those doors and opportunities became pivotal for me. And so I think that that is actually something that I remember, and those are things that I want to make sure that now I'm in a position of influence and where I can actually give voice to the voiceless, that I can actually pay it forward as well. So that's kind of what I'm doing now in the latter part of my career, in the next 15 years, of being able to pay it forward so I can obviously open many of those doors as they did for me. So that's a little bit about my background and my journey. To the second question at hand, in terms of the capabilities or skill sets that are important, I will say that there's a ton, but the three that really come to mind, and I was thinking about this as I was preparing for my remarks tonight, I would say conflict management comes to mind. I think that we're living in a society right now that it's important to make sure that you have the ability to agree to disagree, to be able to do that civilly, with a lot of civility, with a lot of dignity and respect, yet to make sure that you're able to navigate those political waters. And that actually, in my role at Freighter, has become extremely important, because there's a lot, many times, when I feel that I have to be the conscience of the organization and say things that might be blind spots to other leaders in the organization. So conflict management, I would say problem solving. It's another critical skill that is really important and has helped me along the way. And the third one would be communication. I think that we're living in a world right now where, and actually this is not a criticism to anyone in the room, but I think we're living in a world right now that we rely heavily on our phones. And everything is about a text message, is about one or two words. And there's many things that quite frankly cannot be said or conveyed in one or two words. And I think our ability to be able to hone in on those skills and have great communication skills, it's really important. So those would be the three things that I think would be pivotal for any, honestly, for any professional in any field.
Thanks for letting me be here tonight. It was really an honor for Brandon to ask me. And the talent in this room is stunning and amazing. And your work ethic to work and go to school, to raise families, be part of your organic family and do it all plus is amazing. So thank you for letting me be here tonight. I'm going to actually reverse the skill sets and then tell you how my life has evolved and why I think they're important. So I think that engagement is important, which requires vulnerability, to share you with me, and in that dialogue, get over some of the preconceived assumptions or notions of each other. I think is really important. As I get more and more senior, more and more people look and act like me in the C-suite circle, and I love differences and being able to absorb those, right? But if you see me as, a middle-aged white woman, you may not realize that, I grew up as a poor farm kid, sort of in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, 2 hours from the nearest city, no TV, no internet, very isolated. So I was very underprepared, even though I graduated at the top of my class of 100 for college. We had no AP classes in my high school. We barely had sort of the basic pre-college. But I was lucky enough that my parents had gone to college, been teachers, and then turned farmers. And so it wasn't a matter of whether we went to college or not, it was how we were gonna get there. So, the second one is work ethic, I think, is very important, especially from the older generation to the new generation, and all of you have it, right? But there's sort of a media stigma that Generation Z and millennials don't work as hard as, Gen Xers and baby boomers, and that's just, I think, not true. I think how you work is differently, right? You are exposed to social media and technology, and that's both a great advantage and a pressure for all of you, because you're on 24/7. We were not. When we left work or home, no one could really see what we were doing. You are on display all the time. And so I think, that the more you can engage with the leaders of your organization and help them understand that you're just as motivated, have just as much work ethic, but you run your lives and careers differently, and how and why, I think that bridges the gap as well. I went to college as a pre-med biology major, decided I didn't want to go to med school, really struggled to figure out what I was going to do next because I needed to graduate in 4 years or less due to finances, because I was working 3 jobs, putting myself through school, didn't have time to do extra. So I became an English lit major. Graduated early due to not having enough money for that last semester, and then spent 5 years working out in the industry before I went to law school. So, another skill I think is flexibility, right? And realizing, I think there's so much pressure on younger generations to have this direct linear path, or to know what you want to do when you get out of college. And if you don't know what you're going to do, it's really, anxious, anxiety, and just pressure, right? Because you're supposed to know, and you're supposed to know what the next step is. I wasn't even sure that I wanted to go to law school when I graduated undergrad, and through working at a telecommunications company when it was deregulating and had competition, I got to see lawyers helping them. My first job was as a statistical analyst. Why they gave me that job, no clue, because I am not a numbers person. I have an English lit degree, remember? But it motivated me to go back and to finish as corporate lawyer. I spent 10 years in a law firm, 5 years of my own. Because of 2008, right? The recession dropped all M&A. It just dried up. And so I had to make the choice. They froze partnership that I'd worked so hard for. So during those 10 years, I was one of the only women in corporate. I felt like it was going to be a straight linear path, right? I was going to make partner, then I was going to vie for being on the board and include women in a very male-dominated law firm. 2008 occurred, they froze partnership, and I had to decide whether I was going to wait or do something else. I chose to go out on my own, taking my book of business that I had built for the partnership track with me, and that was a heavy risk. I was a single mom of little kids, and suddenly ate what I killed and didn't have a paycheck. But it worked out, and then that introduced me to Brady, my first in-house role, and then that introduced me to Quad. And so my point is, it's not all linear, and you don't have to have it figured out. And in fact, you can't, because you don't know what will happen to the economy, to the world, to you, to really your career. And so you have to be adaptable and flexible enough to pivot when you need to pivot. So I think, engagement, work ethic, the vulnerability to be yourself, always, then breeds success. And being open enough to see the opportunities that you may never have seen coming will be helpful to your future.
So I actually want to revert to the next question, but I think it's very interesting that both Andreas and Sherilyn kind of shared their journeys and the key skills. And actually recently, one of my mentors told me, don't worry too much about the journey, worry about the skills that you're trying to attain. And as you find your strengths and those weaknesses and those skills, that's going to lead you and direct you through your journey. So I appreciate you all sharing that, because I've seen that, and I think that your story, it connected the dots for me as well. So thanks for sharing that. So we're going to change and pivot a little bit. And this question is specifically for Marduella. As the COO, your role pretty much ensures the ship is operating smoothly. And a lot of that responsibilities covers the hiring, the firing, the management of people and teams. What are 2 to 3 challenges you are facing when it comes to attracting and retaining young talent in today's market? might have to flip it.
I think it's on. Again, I just want to personally just say I'm really excited to be here. Excited because I've known Braden since he's been born. And to be quite honest, I'm amazed every time I see him doing something. It's always great. The outcome is great. There's a lot of thought put into it. So again, with you, young man, I'm just excited to see that you guys are doing this, because what I see from my end is there isn't a lot of leadership from the Black and Brown Latin community and the younger population staff that I see. So like, I think the challenge I've had over the last 3 to 4 years, especially because of COVID, is just, we can retain, we go through the recruiting process, we go through the hiring process, we go through the training process, and then there's a lack of commitment for individuals that want to work within an organization. And I think it's exciting because for you guys, this is totally different than when I was 20 to 25, where the market is definitely an employee market. And so you guys have the option to pick and choose where you want to go. When I was graduating from college, I wanted to work for the city, wanted to work for the county. It was almost impossible to get one of those jobs. Right now, they're begging for employees to come through their doors. And so I think that's one of the challenges that I see. I think also we're struggling with having a lot of the individuals come through our doors and they don't have the soft and hard skills to do the job. And I say soft skills, I'm talking about the things that make you effective at your job. You can learn everything in school. They can give you all the theory of what you should be doing, but then when it comes to coming to work, being able to do some of the things you talked about, engage, communicate, collaborate, those things definitely have been lacking, I think.
Perspective, it's important. And then I think, one of the things that I do is I like to probe further and understand the other side, right, of the coin. Sometimes someone in my team has been perceived, judged, has been indicted for something that someone believed that they did or they said, again, without much facts, right? I heard this through the grapevine, and I'm like, but wait a minute, you did not verify that, or you weren't there when that happened, then obviously you have to take it with a grain of salt. And so I think it's really important that when you're going to enter conflict management discussions, that there has to be an agreement on what is it that it's going to happen. You should have some guiding principles. 2 is bringing those facts to light. And then thirdly, I think that there has to be a negotiation or deliberation process that has to ensue. And then finally, hopefully, you can get to what I call kind of building common ground and landing in a place where hopefully it's an amicable negotiation or solution to the problem. But when that is not the way in which individuals want to enter those conversations, to me that becomes a red flag. And I certainly will not enter a conversation with anyone if they're not willing to give me or someone in my team the benefit of the doubt. Because at the end of the day, we're all working for the same organization, we're all very committed to the same mission, and while, yes, we might have differences of opinion or in the way in which we do the work, at the end of the day, it's about making sure that we are one team and that we're accomplishing those objectives. So I think that it's important to remind people and anchor people on what's important, what's the end goal here, and certainly living or being guided by the mission, vision, and values of your organization. And I would say in my 8 years at Freighter, I think I've only had one crucial conversation that didn't go well, quite frankly. Every other conversation, or courageous conversations, I like to call them, have gone well because, again, we have entered with certain agreements in place.
Cool, so we're gonna switch it up and then we're gonna close out, but we're gonna do a little bit of rapid fire, right? Sherry Lynn, and if it's okay with you, if y'all need the mic, let me know. What's one thing you have to do every day?
Just generally.
Generally, what's one thing that y'all...
Plan for the important and urgent, not necessarily what's coming across my desk. You know, reminding myself what's important, not necessarily urgent, that has to get done on a given day.
Got you. Marduella, tell us your favorite vacation spot.
South Beach.
South Beach. Give it up for South Beach. Introverts in South Beach. Hey, Sam be the quiet one. Let's go to Andreas. What song is on replay for you right now?
What is it? What, I'm sorry?
What song is on replay for you right now?
Oh, gosh. Trust in God. And she can validate that. Yep, trust in God.
Trust in God, okay.
Very anchored in my faith. Yeah.
Nice. And then LaShonda, close us out. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Hit snooze. And then I have coffee because I do that as one act of benevolence for everybody every single day. I don't drink it for me, I drink it for the other people that have to deal with it.
For sure. And then just to close it out, if you all could just give us one last thing that you want to share with young professionals today.
Yeah, I think, we started with the question that I think got hit there, and I think, I'd say those three skills, I'd love to end with that, which for me, and it's been evident through my career, are curiosity. It's the ability to ask the questions, not just assume that because people have always done something some way that that's the way that it should be done. It is agility, the ability to not just have that plan, but also recognize when that plan is not working for you and the ability to change what your flight plan is. And then the third thing for me has always just been, the ability to have that self-reflection, I think is really important. Both for making sure that the things that you're doing align with your passions, but also for making sure that you are serving yourself and the others that you are charged to lead and or to support and serve in the manner that is the best that you can, and to be able to show up that way every single day.
Nice.
I'm going to answer your question. So the first thing that I like to do in the morning is look in the mirror. And I'm not saying physically, I'm saying as a person, what am I bringing to society? What am I doing for myself, physically as well as mentally? I think the thing that I would leave with you guys is to make sure you invest in yourself, treat yourself well, and also treat your community well. So.
I think I would say take care of yourself, and if you need to find mentors or friends, find them. In the craziest places, you might find people that you connect with, and oftentimes those can give you sort of an objective sounding ground, keep you grounded, help you say no when you vent to them. Use the people in the community that you have around you and expand that as much as possible, as early as possible, and allow yourself to be supported by it.
Two quick things. Number one, build network. I think that this event is a phenomenal way of continuing to expand your network. And again, I think Braylon and Brendan did a great job of setting the stage and telling us all, walk out of here, right, with 2 or 3 new names or new friends. I think that that's important, first and foremost. And then the second thing, and this is actually something, and I'll certainly will expand on the comment made here, about mentors. I would say, we'll expand it to say maybe more in terms of a board of directors. One of the things that one of my key mentors said to me, and he's been with me since the age of 14, and I'm almost 50. So he's been a civic father for many, many years. Former attorney, phenomenal individual. He said to me early on, build your board of directors and make sure that you have different leaders there with different skill sets that you need, and that they're willing to give you honest feedback in real time. And so I was able to build a board of directors that have coaches, that I have mentors, and that I have sponsors as well. I would not be where I'm at if it was not for building that board of director. And I wish I would have done it earlier in my career, but unfortunately I was a little bit of a knucklehead. So I leave you with that. That is something that has been extremely critical and important in my life.
So if we could just stand up and give a round of applause to our panelists, y'all. We truly, truly appreciate you all for not just joining us tonight, but for being amazing leaders in the workplace, in the community. And it's because of you we have something to look up to. And I also thank you just for saying yes to joining us tonight, for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your wisdom. I know I don't take it lightly, and I know Brendan most certainly don't take it lightly either. And so we just wanted to say thank you again from us, but then also from our attendees. I just want to say y'all look good again, by the way. And we just want to give you all a token of love and appreciation, just to thank you for your time, but then also for the knowledge that you've given us today. So again, thank y'all. And then really quick, we're transitioning to the fun part of the night. So we encourage you all, to have fun. I'm gonna say get lit, because I use that term all the time. But then also we have the 360 booth out there, y'all. Please use that booth. Y'all, we did this for us. We did this for each other. And so it's all about just celebrating community in each other tonight. But then lastly, if you do post and things like that, we ask that you use the acronym SATT, seat at the table 2023, or that hashtag if you do any posting or anything like that. If you got us on social media, tag us and everything like that. We definitely want to connect with y'all on socials as well. But again, like I said, to our panelists and our special guests, we truly appreciate y'all for just taking the time out of your schedules to join us and impart wisdom with us.
And we got a gift for all of y'all too, but you got to fill out the survey so we can continue to make sure that we build upon this and we are making it impactful for everybody that is in the room today. So as Braylon already said, appreciate y'all. Now let's have a good time.
And you can scan the QR code. So if you